Welcome back to Universe. I'm Andrew, and it's time for Chapter 5 of the Sinister Motives campaign for Marvel Champions. We've already beaten Sandman, Venom, Mysterio, the Sinister Six, and now it is time for Venom Goblin, Nadia Van Dyne, a.k.a. Mary Jane Watson, the Wasp. Check back to my first video where I introduced my idea, but basically this is an alternate reality version of Mary Jane Watson stung by a radioactive wasp with the powers to do everything a wasp can do, such as changing her size. And also we have Gamora here reskinned as Gwen Stacy, affected by the Green Goblin serum to create the Gwen Goblin. I think in this alternate reality, her father is Green Goblin, so this scenario, Venom Goblin, will be hitting close to home here. But it says, using a device he completed during your slog through Oscorp Norman Osborn, or actually, I guess her dad, George Stacy, I forget his name. Stacy finally twists the Venom symbiote to his will. Binding with it, this triumvirate of terror takes to the skies of New York City, dropping symbiotic goo on unsuspecting citizens, attempting to create the army he was previously denied. So I've already done the setup instructions, as well as setting up the campaign mode, because we are playing the final campaign mode, so we're playing with the Sinister Motives reputation track. I think we're at 22, meaning we've done a number of things, including adding various cards to the villain deck, including a couple Sinister Six members who were still out at the end of our previous scenario. Got extra threat on the main scheme. We've got public outcry, which actually need to set up with the 4 counters there. Each of our heroes has a minion, which we'll see in a second. Got some Osborn tech cards in the villain corp. We've got enhanced shield tech for each of the heroes. Each hero also starts with a helicarrier, which will be nice. Each player got to add an extra card to their starting hand after resolving 2 mulligans. Theoretically, we do score at the end of this scenario as well to see what our final campaign score is. But as long as we win, I'll be happy. And I've heard this scenario is pretty challenging, so we'll see whether we can come out on top. So in this one, Venom Goblin is plaguing New York. We've got Upper Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, with this extra scheme starting out in play because of the campaign. And just like the Sinister Six had rotating villains, this one has rotating main schemes. So there's Upper Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, and Midtown Manhattan. Currently the marker is showing that Midtown is the main scheme. I haven't played it before, but I believe that if any of them advances, it actually becomes a Venom environment or a symbiote environment, which would be negative for us. Venom Goblin is steady, which means that in order to stun or confuse him, we have to stun or confuse him twice. A single status won't apply. And after he activates against a hero or a character or an identity, the main scheme is going to rotate to the one with the least threat. And then you either have to add 2 threat to it or resolve its special ability, and each one has a special ability which is detrimental. Each of our heroes is starting with an enraged symbiote. Because we got to choose a minion, I chose the easiest to dispatch out of the deck. They have 1 scheme to attack, 2 health, guard, and patrol, so we can't attack the villain or thwart a main scheme while we are engaged with these enraged symbiotes. Other than that, I think we can start with MJ, Wasp, see what we can do. So we got to start with a helicarrier for free in addition to our enhanced shield tech. We also got to start with an extra card in our hand because we get to add it after resolving mulligans, which means you get to resolve your full hand and everything and then search up the card you wanted. So we chose to give her ingenuity, give her access to an extra resource generator from the beginning. So we'll probably want to play that. I think we'll plan to play Ingenuity as well as lay down the law. The question is, do we play Avengers Mansion or do we do a couple other things? We probably want to charge up her compact darts as well. So feel free to pause on that, but we've been playing with that all campaign long. Basically, she could pay a resource to fill it up, and when she attacks, she can spend counters from it to do extra damage. Let's actually let Gwen Goblin use her ability first. Look at the top card of her deck, and if it's an attack or thwart, add it to her hand. And we got Power of Aggression, so no go there. So we'll go ahead and pay with Genius to play Ingenuity. That'll give Wasp an extra resource. We use her Girl ability to shuffle 2 mental resource cards from her discard into her deck. Genius, and let's do a Pinpoint Strike. There we go. Next, I think we will play the Mansions. Turn 1, good time to bring it out. We'll pay with these 3 cards, plus reduce the cost of it by 1 with Helicarrier. And now she can exhaust that to draw an extra card and use this card as a resource to fill up the darts with 3 charges. Then we will change Wasp into hero form. We're going to go giant right off the bat. When we change forms, we'll play Lay Down the Law, paying with Ingenuity for a mental resource so that it removes 4 threat from a scheme, bringing the Festering Mass down to 3. And I think let's just go ahead and thwart it for 2 as well with Wasp basic thwart action. Going back to Gamora, actually I forgot the Risk Navigator. I've been playing that it does trigger during setup, so it says after a minion or side scheme enters play, attach this to it. And the last thing to enter play, according to the campaign rules, was this Festering Mass. So it actually should be attached there. I'm going to play Combat Training, so Gamora will get +1 attack, paying with Power of Aggression from our hand, as opposed to the one on top of our deck. I'm going to play Gamora's Sword, which is the card we searched up. We're going to reduce its cost with Helicarrier and pay with these 2 cards. Unfortunately, giving up Nebula for now, but that means every time Gamora plays an attack, she can deal 1 damage to an enemy. Change Gamora into hero form. After she plays an attack event, remove 1 threat from a scheme, and after she plays a thwart event, deal 1 damage to an enemy, once per phase each. So we're going to play Set the Pace, a 0-cost thwart event to remove a threat from a scheme. That'll be from the Festering Mass here, which will complete that, which means the Risk Navigator means she gets to draw a card. We knew what that one was. Don't think we'll be able to use it this round. But since she played a thwart event, she can deal 1 damage, so we'll deal 1 damage to an enraged symbiote. Then she'll play Acrobatic Move, a 0-cost attack event to deal 2 damage to an enemy, deal 2 damage to this enraged symbiote here. And when she plays an attack, the sword can deal 1 damage, so we'll deal 1 damage to this symbiote. And when she plays an attack, she can remove 1 threat from a scheme, so we'll take 1 off this Midtown Manhattan. Then she can still attack or thwart. Her attack is pumped up by the Combat Training, so that's tempting. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. And just hit Venom Goblin for 3, putting him down to 29. And I forgot about the Public Outcry, which says whenever you defeat a minion or side scheme, remove a counter from here. And we just took out 2 minions and a side scheme, so we can take 3 off, leaving it with just 1. But that will end the hero phase, so we can ready all the cards and draw up to hand size of 5 each. All right, the main scheme is going to get 2 per player. 4 is kind of a lot. Gets an extra 1 because of the acceleration on Public Outcry. So it's up to 10 out of a potential 24. Then Venom Goblin will attack Wasp for 2 damage plus a potential boost. Guess we'll take it. Let's see how hard he can hit. It's a special, resolve the special ability of the scheme with the glider counter. It says take 2 indirect damage. If a symbiote environment is in play, take an extra 1. Fortunately, we got rid of that side scheme, which did count as a symbiote environment, so we just take 2 indirect plus the 2 attack, so that's 4 damage to Wasp, putting her to 7. And then for Gamora, that's 2 plus a boost. We'll take it, so that's another special. You're stunned. If you're already stunned, take 2 damage. So that's unfortunate because we just played our acrobatic move. And 2 damage puts her to 8. And then in counter cards, 1 for Wasp and 1 for Gamora, we get Spreading Panic has Surge. When revealed, resolve this special ability. So that's 2 more indirect damage, putting her down to 5. And Surge means get another card. It says Improvised Weapons attached to the villain. It's going to give him plus a boost symbol to all his activations. Oh, and you know what? I screwed up already because let's put 2 health back on Wasp. That special ability should not have been Midtown Manhattan. When Venom Goblin activated against Wasp, the counter should have moved to Upper Manhattan because it has the least scheme on it, or least threat. And Wasp should have had to resolve that. I think she'd go ahead and add 2 threat there rather than discard a card. And when he activated against Gamora, it would be the same thing to either leave it here or move it to there. I think we just leave it here and again choose to add 2 threat or discard a card. And I guess we'll add 2 more, putting it up to 4. So now when this comes out, we're adding a boost icon to each of his activations, and we can discard this with 3 different resources. So that'll be out on him. But from the boost effect of Spreading Panic, instead of taking the 2, Wasp should have had to discard a card. So now that one is not optional. I think she actually has to give up strength here. And then Gamora's card is going to be Assault. The villain attacks you. So that's going to be 2 plus a boost of at least 1, plus a little bit more. And I think Wasp actually will defend this. So in giant form, her defense is 3. And we're actually also going to play Rapid Growth, that when she uses a basic power, she can change to giant form, which she's already in, and add 2. So she's actually defending for 5. We're going to pay with Pim Particles to generate that resource, and when she spends Pim Particles in giant form, she can heal 2 damage. So she goes back up to 9 and is defending for 5. So 2, 3, 6. So she actually takes 1 damage from that. And I think this is an attack for sure from the assault. But I don't think it counts as an activation. So I don't think Venom Goblin's ability here is going to occur. So it says after he activates against you, move the glider counter and place 2 threat on it or do its special. But he's not activating, he's just attacking. So I'm not going to do that part of it. Just take the damage. And Wasp would have to spend an extra couple cards, but she's actually up on health in that exchange. Unfortunately, we didn't get any minions and side schemes for the Wrist Navigator. But we'll now move to round 2, back to the hero phase. I think we'll start on Gamora's turn by having Avengers Mansion, Wasp give that card to Gamora. And Wasp is not going to have a lot to do because she already defended and spent a bunch of cards, but we will have some stuff for Gamora to do. First, she's going to need to get rid of this stun, and I think that just means she's going to have to make a basic attack to do nothing except for get rid of the stun status. So that's 3 damage we lost there. But then we will play Fusillade, paying with Power of Aggression. To do 5 damage, we have to exhaust a weapon, but Gamora's sword doesn't mind being exhausted, so that's going to deal 5 damage to Venom Goblin, but bring him down to 24. In addition to that, Gamora can remove a threat when she plays an attack, so we'll bring this down. Sword says she actually gets to deal damage when she attacks too, so down to 23. And we'll play Forward Momentum. It says remove 3 threat from this game, 5 instead if you've played an attack. So we'll pay with these 2 cards. Preservation says when you spend it, you get to heal 1 damage, so she'll go up to 9. And this card is in her deck because of the campaign rules. So 5 off of Midtown Manhattan. When she plays a thwart event, she can deal 1 damage. So we'll deal 1 to Venom Goblin, putting him down to 22. And then she will play Decisive Blow, using both of the helicarriers to reduce its cost down to 0. And it's going to deal 7 damage since she's played a thwart event, plus 1 more from the sword. Unfortunately, we don't get to trigger for another threat removal, but that'll be a total of 8. Bring him down to 14. And if we beat him, then we'll move on to Venom Goblin Stage 2. If we beat Venom Goblin Stage 2, we win the game. So that is pretty much Gamora's turn. That was a bunch of damage and not inconsequential amount of threat removal. For Wasp, I think what she's going to do is change forms to tiny form. So her tiny hero form, she has 1 thwart and 1 attack. 2 defense, but she's still going to be exhausted. And when she changes forms, we will play Perseverance, which is, again, in her deck due to the campaign rules. We will pay with Ingenuity, and she's going to become tough. So that is a nice little status for her to have, but that's pretty much all she can do. And we're going to save this energy in her hand. Nice resource to have for later. Unfortunately, we couldn't use it. And that will end hero phase number 2. Actually, before we end the hero phase, I'm going to cheat again, as I like to do, which is to switch Gamora to alter ego form and get a 6th card because she's got a bigger hand size in alter ego. And we'll add 0 threat to Upper Manhattan because it has a nice convenient 0. Actually, 1 extra here, so it actually will get 1. And now I'm realizing I did the same thing I did last game, which is to add the starting amount rather than the increase amount. They're all 1 per player, so they should all gain 2 whenever they start as the main scheme during the villain phase. Last round I added 4 to Midtown Manhattan. It should have only added 2, or I added 5 because of public outcry. I should have only added 3. And now this is going to gain 2, going up to 5. Then Venom Goblin will scheme against Gamora in alter ego form, so that's 2 plus 1 boost plus extra boost. So it's going to be 3. Wow. So 6 total added to Upper Manhattan, putting it up to 11 out of 20. And after he activates against her, she either has to put 2 more threat on there or discard a card, because that is the special ability of Upper Manhattan. But I feel like we'll take the threat, putting it up to 13. Then Venom Goblin will attack Wasp, but she's tough, so we'll take it. So that's going to be 2, 3, 6 damage. is all blocked by tough. And then she has to put 2 more threat on Upper Manhattan. Oh, no, I'm sorry, this should have moved to here before gaining the 2 threat. So let's put it back down to 11. And then Gamora, instead of discarding a card, she has to place a threat on each scheme or 2 threat here. I think we'll take the 2 threat rather than the 3 threat. And now after he's attacked Wasp, this will move to here because now this has the least threat. And she has to either take 2 indirect damage or put 2 more threat here. I feel like damage might be easier to heal or deal with than extra threat. I'm not sure. Let's take the damage. Hopefully we don't regret that one. And then take an encounter card for each of our heroes. One for Green Goblin. We get violent tendencies attached to the villain. After the attached villain takes any amount of damage from an attack, give the attached villain a face down boost card. If the attack dealt 3 or more damage, discard this card. So he's going to get an extra boost for a future activation. I think I'm fine with that. And for Wasp, we got a symbiotic thrall with 4 health, 1 scheme, 2 attack, guard. And while a symbiote environment is in play, it has patrol, which is guard for schemes, the main scheme specifically. So that will join Wasp. Actually, the Risk Navigator will move to that thrall, so that's nice. And we can play the hero phase, starting with Wasp. So I think I'm going to start by changing Wasp from tiny to giant, and then play giant help. So it's going to remove 3 threat from a scheme, 4 instead if we're giant, which we are. We're going to pay with Pim Particles, so we heal for 2 more, and Determination, so we get to remove a threat from the main scheme, which is Midtown Manhattan. I think that actually happens afterward, but doesn't matter. We're going to remove 4 with the giant help from Lower Manhattan, so get that down to 0. Because we could have done Upper Manhattan, but you know what? Let's do that. I'm not sure which is better at this point. But if we have them all kind of close at a low number, we can maybe have control over which one we move to. Although again, I don't know how important that is. But then I'm going to play Clear the Area, paying with Ingenuity. And it's going to remove 2 threat from a scheme, and if it removes the last threat, draw a card. So we're going to remove 2 from Midtown Manhattan, and that will let us draw a card. And interesting. I'm going to go ahead and play one way or the other. Let's see what's going to happen. So we search the encounter deck for a side scheme, put it into play, and draw 3 cards. There's only one, which I'm not thrilled about. We got the Joyride, has Hinder 2, so it's going to have 2 plus 4 more for a total of 6 threat on it. And it says when revealed, move the glider token to the main scheme with the most threat. So this is going to come over to Upper Manhattan and resolve its special ability, meaning Wasp has to discard a card, and that was the only card in our hand is energy. Then we'll get to draw 3. Hopefully that makes it worthwhile. Actually, has another bit of maybe disappointment, or maybe it's fine. I didn't really think about the fact that this is now going to have the Risk Navigator move on to there. So we're going to get 6 threat off that for Gamora to be able to draw a card. Kind of want to use my darts, but I just drew Heroic Intuition, which increases my threat, or my thwart rather. So I think I'm going to pay for that with the Genius I just drew, and that'll give Wasp 3 thwart value. And we may as well use that 3 thwart value to get started on the Joyride, because I don't think we want that sticking around. Put it down to 3. We do not use the Mansion or the Helicarrier, so Alter Ego Gamora can look at the top of her deck. If it's an attack or thwart, add it to her hand. And it is. May as well give her the Avengers Mansion card so she can draw. And we will go to hero form. I think she can attack for a lot. The question is, can we get rid of that Joyride? Let's start by using both Helicarriers to reduce the cost of the next card by 2. And then play Dropkick, which deals 4 damage. And if you paid for it only using Strength, stun the enemy and draw a card. We're going to pay with 1 Strength resource, and it only costs 1 now. So we're dealing 4 to Venom Goblin, putting him down to 10. And also get to stun him and draw a card. Now he is steady, so that stun won't do anything by itself, but we get a card. And that will trigger the Violent Tendencies, which says after a villain takes any amount of damage, give him a face down boost card, and if it was 3 or more, this card goes away. So that's nice. Her ability from Finesse is after you play an attack, remove a threat. So we'll bring this down to 2. And we get to also trigger the sword to deal 1 more damage. I guess we'll put that on the Thrall. and see what we got. Unfortunately, I think Gamora's going to have to use her basic thwart power to get rid of Joyride because we didn't draw enough threat removal. So we'll go ahead and do that. We don't get to use our combat training. Just remove the 2 threat, but that'll avoid an extra encounter card. And it also means you get to draw with Risk Navigator. And it also means that the public outcry is done. So we don't have to worry about that acceleration anymore. And that's 1 victory point. We got a bunch more build up for Gamora, but I don't think we're going to be able to finish the Thrall awkwardly enough. I mean, kind of if we want to, but see how this plays out. So we have Keen Instinct, so we'll pay for that, and that's going to be an upgrade that lets her generate a wild resource for attack or thwart events specifically. I'm going to play Martial Prowess, paying with a Genius, and that is also an upgrade. We'll generate a Strength resource for an attack event only. We'll use both of those actually, hold on for a second. We'll play Set the Pace next. So this is a thwart event for 0. Remove a threat from a scheme. Take that off Upper Manhattan, I suppose. And that will trigger her finesse, or her precision ability, that lets her deal 1 damage. We can put a 2nd point of damage on the Thrall. Then she can play Decisive Blow, paying 2 with these 2 upgrades she just made. They can both pay for attacks, which is what this is. Deals 4 unless you've played a thwart event, which we just did, so it deals 7 instead. So we'll put Venom Goblin down to 3. And when we play an attack with the sword, we can deal 1 damage. So we'll put a 3rd damage on Symbiotic Thrall. And on top of that, we get to trigger the Finesse ability to remove a threat from a scheme. So we'll bring this down to 5. And then we can also play Fluid Motion, another upgrade. After you play an attack event, we can exhaust this to give our hero +1 attack until the end of the phase. So we'll overpay with the Strength. And now it's kind of like she has a 2nd combat training, so she can attack for 4 if she's played an attack event, which we did play an attack event, but we had to thwart with her to get rid of the Joyride. So that will leave the Symbiotic Thrall with 3 damage on it, and it's going to be able to hit Wasp, but I think that's the best we can do. So we'll go to the villain phase. Upper Manhattan will get 2 more threat on it, going up to 7. Venom Goblin will attack Wasp for 2, 3, plus this boost, plus a regular boost. That could just take her out, so I think I have to defend just to reduce that by 3 and hope that she doesn't get taken out by that. Because unfortunately, we don't have anything else to do about it. So 3, 4, 6 damage reduced by 3. She's going to take 3 and go to 3, so if she hadn't defended, she would have been taken out. Then this will move to the scheme with the least threat, which is here, and do the special, which is take 2 indirect damage or add 2 threat there because of Venom Goblin's ability. So we'll take the threat. Symbiotic Thrall also attacks, unfortunately, putting Wasp down to 1. Gamora could have defended that, but I think we'll let that happen. Hopefully her encounter card doesn't just kill us. I think this stun just falls off at that point. It's wasted. And an attack against Gamora for 2 plus the 1 boost is 3 plus 0. So 3 damage to Gamora, not nearly as bad. An encounter card for Wasp and Gamora. We got Swinging Assault. So Venom Goblin is attacking Wasp with an extra boost card. So I guess Gamora is going to have to defend. Hopefully she doesn't get taken out. Oh, and I guess after the attack against Gamora, we should also move this to here again and add 2 more threat because she doesn't want to take that damage either. And yeah, she's defending now, so that's going to be 2, 3 plus 2 boosts. Place a threat on each scheme without the glider. So 1 here and 1 here. No extra damage. And then 2 boosts there. So a total of 5 minus 2 is 3. Putting Gamora to 3. And then her card is going to be Advance the Villain Schemes. So that is 2, 3 threat added to Midtown Manhattan. So both our heroes are exhausted now going into the hero phase. Venom Goblin is down to 3, but so is Gamora, and Wasp is at 1. We can't even recover because we're exhausted. So I think we'll have Gamora start out by playing Clobber. We're going to pay with our 2 upgrades that pay for attacks. Deal 3 damage to an enemy. And if it's the first card you played this round, return it to your hand. So we're going to hit Venom Goblin down to 0 and get this back to hand. Hopefully his level 2 doesn't do anything too terrible to us on reveal. You know what, before I do it, I'm going to look ahead. Usually I don't look ahead, but since we're at such precarious health, I am going to have a look at Venom Stage 2. I haven't played it before. It says steady and toughness. So he'll get a tough right away. I'm going to reveal deal 2 face down encounter cards to each player. And now he's going to force us to resolve the special abilities of the schemes rather than giving us the option of adding 2 threat to them. So at least he's not doing immediate damage. I think I will go ahead and follow through with that. His new health is going to be 18 per player, so 36. He does get tough, but I'm not too worried about that because Gamora can burn through that pretty easily. We get a damage trigger from Gamora's sword, which we'll put on the Thrall finally, taking him out. And 1 threat can be removed. We'll take it off Lower Manhattan. We're going to play Forward Momentum, playing with these 2 cards. One of them is Audacity, which says after we spend it, we can deal 1 damage. And the Forward Momentum is going to remove 5 threat from a scheme since we've played an attack. I guess we'll just take it off the Upper Manhattan. Nice clean removal there. 1 damage from Audacity, 1 damage from Gamora. We'll put Venom Goblin down to 34. Actually 35. And remove the tough from one of those instances of damage. And I wanted to be able to play Hand Cannon. I feel like I don't think I played it all campaign long. I thought it'd be fun to have her swinging damage around. But we're having trouble making her basic attack, so I'm going to spend this, unfortunately, along with a cost reduction from Helicarrier in order to replay Clobber. So we're going to deal 3 more damage and not get it back to our hand. With the sword, that'll be 4 damage, putting Venom Goblin down to 31. And then we're going to put Gamora into alter ego form. Maybe next round she can recover before flipping back, or at the very least she'll have 6 cards to work with. Well, I don't think I readied the Avengers Mansion because we didn't give a card to Gamora. So we're going to draw a card for Wasp. And this is interesting because as Wasp, we've got 2 pinpoint strikes now, and each of them can do 7 damage. I think we're going to have to switch to alter ego, so we can't afford to switch to tiny form to make them into 8 damage attacks, but 14 damage would put Venom Goblin down to 17, and we have a reasonable chance of taking him out next round. But the other option would be to play a Spider-Man and a pinpoint strike. Spider-Man would be able to defend for us, but we are switching to alter ego. He could get in for 4, and then 2 next turn, which is 6, and a potential block if somehow that became necessary, even though we're switching to alter ego for both characters. So 6 damage might be better than 7 because it's in the form of an ally that might have more utility. The other option is we also have 2 copies of Lay Down the Law, so we could remove 8 threat from schemes, but I think we're actually okay. This one doesn't pop until it's at 20, this one's 22, and this one's 24. So we're going to ignore threat for a bit, and we're going to try to mow down Venom Goblin, but I am going to do Spider-Man rather than a double pinpoint strike. So we'll pay these 3 for Spider-Man, and we'll choose to give him +2 attack until the end of the phase, attack for 4, so he takes 1. Venom Goblin go down to 27, and then we'll play one of the pinpoint strikes, reducing it with Helicarrier, paying with Ingenuity, and the other pinpoint strike to deal 7, putting Venom Goblin down to 20. And actually, whenever Wasp attacks, including the way this is worded, even playing an attack card, we can spend a dart to deal 1 damage to 2 different enemies. Unfortunately, there's only 1 enemy, but I'm still going to take advantage of my opportunity to use my first dart. I think I might have played an attack with her earlier. I could have used a dart then, but maybe not. Maybe this is her first attack of the game, and now we just have to do 19 damage next round. Go ahead and fold her up back to alter ego form and see if we can survive with 1 and 3 hit points respectively. It is less common to take damage while in alter ego form, but it is not impossible. In fact, I just remembered one of these has indirect damage as its special, which is Midtown Manhattan, which fortunately is the one we left with the most threat on it. Thank you, my subconscious, because this Venom Goblin will not allow us to add 2 threat. We just have to resolve this special. But we've got 2 main schemes with less threat, so hopefully we can avoid that. So Midtown Manhattan gets 2 more, going up to 9. Venom Goblin will scheme against Gwen Goblin for 2, 3, plus a boost. 1 more is 4, totally fine. Goes up to 13 out of 24. Then this moves to here and forces her to resolve its special, which is to discard a card. I think we are okay with that. He will then scheme against MJ for 2, 3 plus a boost, 4. So that'll put 4 more on Upper Manhattan, putting it up to 7. And then this moves over to here and add 1 threat on each scheme. Also not too bad. However, this is probably more the scary part. I forgot to deal each hero 2 encounter cards when he flipped, and they now each get an extra encounter card, so we have 6 to go through. First up is a Symbiotic Thrall. Not bad for Gamora. Ionic Boots, Surge, and attached to the villain. After attached villain attacks and damages your identity, place 2 threat on the main scheme. Think I'm okay with that, except for the Surge. So that'll give us another card. Also Surge, attached villains attacks gain overkill and piercing. Not great. Surge. Advanced Glider, attached to the villain. Force response after attached villain activates against you, it activates against you again. Hopefully we can just kill him before any of this happens, because so far none of these hurt us until next round, and they don't help him survive. So, Symbiotic Berserker, 3 attack, and when a symbiote environment is in play, it has Berserker, it has Quick Strike. So, fortunately, that is not the case, and we're Alter Ego anyway, so Quick Strike wouldn't hit us. And we can ignore this one because it doesn't have Guard, although the Risk Navigator would be attached to it. It's the newest thing to come into play. 3 for Wasp. Got Caught Off Guard, discard an upgrade or support you control. I actually think I'm going to lose the Heroic Intuition. We're not really in thwart mode anymore, so I'm okay with that. Symbiotic Thrall, more guards to get through. That's going to be annoying. Just means he's got extra health, and a Symbiotic Berserker, so another minion we can ignore, and now the Risk Navigator is on the newest one. So we survived. Basically, Venom Goblin gained 8 more hit points because we have to get through these thralls. But if we can do 27 damage, we're going to be okay. Can we do 27 damage? If we can't do 27 damage, I think we're going to die. So that's what it comes down to. So first up, I'm going to use Nadia's Girl ability, and we're going to get 2 pinpoint strikes back. So we would like to attack with them and deal damage. We have a small deck, so we're just getting a few extra hits shuffled in there. Not sure what else is the contents, but I know those can do a lot of damage. Then I think I'm going to play one way or the other. So I'm not 100% on the rules, but it says search the encounter deck for a side scheme, reveal it, draw 3 cards. We already looked earlier and there aren't any left. So I did as much as I could, and I'm just going to draw 3 cards. I don't know if it was a requirement that a side scheme come out, but there just wasn't one in there. So I'm going to take it, see if we got any of those pinpoint strikes. We actually got both of them. There's some interesting shuffling. Then I'm going to play Moon Girl. We're still an alter ego, and she is a genius in this form. So we're going to pay with a mental resource here, a wild resource as a mental, and a mental resource from Ingenuity. So it's 3 mental resources, meaning we can draw 3 cards for playing Moon Girl. Pretty good value there. Then we're going to go ahead and switch to hero form. This time we're going to be Tiny, and we're going to play one of our pinpoint strikes to deal 7 + 1 damage and give it overkill. We're going to hit the Symbiotic Thrall for 4. 3 of it were overkill over onto Venom Goblin, putting him down to 16. The Thrall has guard, so he's out of the way. And she says, after she defeats a minion or side scheme, deal 1 damage to the villain, so that'll put him down to 15. We're also going to spend compact darts to deal 1 damage to 2 different enemies, so I guess that'll be maybe Venom Goblin and the Symbiotic Thrall. I'm going to go ahead and give Wasp the card, because we need 1 more resource here. Actually, you know what? We're going to cheat it a little bit, but we're going to use Helicarrier from Gamora to reduce the cost for Pinpoint Strike. That'll give Gamora more options. She can be the one to draw the card, so I'll just give that to her now. And then we'll Pinpoint Strike with the Helicarrier and these 2 cards. So that's going to be another 8 overkill. We're going to hit this one to get it out of Gamora's way. Actually, let's waste some damage. I'm feeling generous. Let's give Gamora another card. We're going to hit the Berserker for 5. 3 of it will overkill onto Venom Goblin, putting him down to 11. And again, that is going to trigger Wasp to deal 1 damage to the villain. And compact darts, we can deal 1 damage to 2 different enemies. So that'll put him down to 9, do a second damage to this Thrall. Risk Navigator means Gamora gets another card. Go ahead and have Spider-Man take out the Thrall for another 2 damage. So we have no guards in the way. Moon Girl can take 2 consequential damage to attack for 2, putting Venom Goblin down to 7. And we'll have Wasp attack, and as she does so, we'll play Rapid Growth, reducing it with Helicarrier. That's why we had to use Gamora's a second ago, but it says when you use one of your hero's basic powers, change to Giant form and get +2 for this attack for its use. So we're going to switch to Giant form, and in Giant form she has 2 attack, +2, so we're attacking for 4. We can get Venom Goblin down to 3, and then we can have Gamora take her turn. She's still in alter ego form, so we'll check the top of our deck, and it is an attack, so we'll add that to our hand. I think we will start out with a drop kick, so we're going to pay with only strength, so keen senses, martial prowess, and I guess this hard knocks. We do have to switch to hero form for that. Just going to deal 4 damage, and we'll hit the Berserker. So he's got 1 health remaining, and also he gets stunned, and we draw a card, which actually empties our deck, so technically we take an encounter card right away and reshuffle. But that also triggers Finesse, so she can remove 1 threat. I guess we'll take it off this one, keep it low, and triggers a sword. She played an attack event, so she can deal 1 damage and finish off that Berserker. So now we cleared out all the minions for an extra victory point, which is interesting because we can get an extra victory point by having no threat on the main scheme when we end the game. And this is the main scheme, so if we could get that down to 0, I could have done that with maybe with Moon Girl's help. So I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say Moon Girl, instead of attacking for 2, or which enemy did she hit? All right, I won't cheat and rewind. I don't care about the victory point. But I think I could have done it if I was thinking ahead. We also played an attack, so we can exhaust the fluid motion to give Gamora an extra attack. So she has a basic attack of 4. And she's got a bunch of cards in her hand. We could do a bunch more damage. Got some allies and whatnot. We could do some threat. But we'll just go ahead and make a basic attack with Gamora for 4 against Venom Goblin, putting him down to -1. Which brings us to our ending comic. Go easy on Eddie Brock. He did help us after all. Yes, but that doesn't erase everything else he's done. And Brock's going to want that back, you know. He won't need it where he's going. Leave this to me, kid. I'm good at what I do. Besides, it's late. Don't you two have curfews or something? Yeah, we've been switching to alter ego form this whole time. Thank goodness you're finally home. Estábamos tan preocupadas por ti. We were so worried about you. I will say that is a complaint, and I'm not the only one who has it, but that the initial pitch of Marvel Champions had a very broader scope for how an encounter played out. The idea was that sometimes you're fighting the villain directly, sometimes you're at home doing alter ego stuff and letting the villain scheme. That's what alter ego is for. That's what a bunch of the characters have, like friends and family, as cards that you're supposed to interact with in alter ego form, and the game has unfortunately moved away from that a lot in the encounter design. And this would have been the perfect one to really embrace it, and there are even like the community service cards that try to play onto that theme, but really the entire campaign is taking place within the scope of a few hours. You're just fighting the entire time. There's no time for you to go home, and that's why the comic has you kind of reuniting Spider-Man with his parents, when really that should have been happening all through the scenario. So I'd love to see the scenario design and the campaign design move to a larger storyline, more of a trade paperback type of scope rather than a few pages worth of fighting of what would be in a comic book. But there you go. That is the conclusion of the campaign. Everyone got arrested, and let's see how many points we got. 1 in the victory display, 1 for no minions, 1 for no side schemes. We did not get the no threat on the main scheme, but I'm pretty sure I could have done it. No defeated identities, got that, and fewer than 1 per player acceleration tokens. Definitely got that as well. So we actually got 5 points there, could have easily gotten 6. So we had tons of extra damage, and we could have reassigned a little bit of Wasp's activities to thwarting. Yeah, that rapid growth attack could have easily been a thwart action for 4. But nonetheless, I'm not going to keep score other than to implement the effects that take place during the campaign. Thanks for watching. Let me know which of the 5 scenarios was your favorite in Sinister Motives, or if you have a different favorite scenario or favorite campaign, let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to the X-Men set, which is the next one. Hopefully they have more alter ego stuff going on. Thanks for watching. Subscribe so we can get more subscribers, and bye.